Hello everybody, my name is Patrick and I own MacDonald Timing. Welcome to the channel. This is going to be the first of two videos where we go over MeetPro2 for track and field. In this first video, we're going to set up a meet, we're going to import entries, we're going to seed everything up, we're going to create sessions, and then at the end of it, we're actually going to enter a few results and so show you what we can do as far as posting results at the venue. In the second video, we're going to go over posting live results and some tips and tricks, as well as some best practices so that you can use the program in a more advanced fashion. Personally, I've been using MeetPro since it came out. I'm one of the first licensees of the program. I've been using it since 2013, and I've seen every iteration of it. Right now, we're on MeetPro2 version 154, 155 or so, so depending on when you're watching this, there might be a few changes. Also, this is only for track and field. We'll do another video this summer for cross country. Cross country is a little bit simpler. A lot of the same steps apply. So, let's get into it. Okay, so let's get into it. We are going to start with a semicolon delimited format series of entries. And those are standard from MileSplit, and also I believe Coach-O and Athletic.net, maybe others. If you are using MeetPro and just doing college stuff and you have the luxury of coming over to Direct Athletics for your entries, there will be a couple of steps that you're just going to go skip. You're going to log in to Direct Athletics and then import the entries, and there will be a dialog box that pops up for that. Very, very, very easy. So at a certain point, we'll cut in and I'll say, hey, this is where you would join us if you were downloading entries from DA. But for right now, we are going to import, we're going to start a new meet. And you can use a template, but we're going to come back to that in a moment. And we're going to go test high school meet. And very simply, we're going to say, it's the end of the month, 31st. So nowhere high school is in Nowhere, Alabama, United States. And we're going to say it's high school, it's outdoors, and we are going to score it. We're not going to use divisions or team lanes, and it's a standard track. Create. Okay, so we have nothing going on right now, and that's totally fine. So we're going to import that semicolon delimited file. You might not see all of these options on here, but I have them. So here it is. It looks like a text file. It is a text file. And we are going to go ahead and add missing events, and we're very important. We're going to force metric. Down here, if you were downloading maybe from someplace that does their own entries and has a TFERS ID, you're going to want to go ahead and include that, or a Direct Athletics ID, that's fine. But we're going to ignore it. And we're also going to ignore competitor numbers. This way, the program automatically assigns new numbers. We're going to go ahead and reassign numbers later anyway, but the competitor number thing could potentially create some issues. I've seen it before, but it's been a long time. Still, best practice, just go ahead and ignore competitor number. So, I'm going to import. In this case, we have all the events that were registered for by anybody in the event. Now there is a little bit of a problem in that MeetPro does assign pretty much the default settings for a given race. So we're going to have to come back in a little bit and fix some of these, but that's not a big deal. Totally fine, totally reasonable. So it does give kind of random assignments as far as how many lanes/positions are in and available for any given race. A default race that it knows is going to be 8 lane usage. It's going to set to 8, but when you get to the 1600, 3200, obviously it's giving you a little bit more leeway. And then for the field events, it gives a really nice healthy buffer. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and do some batch changes. So I'm going to come over here to batch operations, go to events, and I'm going to set all of my heat order from slow to fast. A lot of the high school events in our area do slow to fast, and then we're going to come back in, batch operations, We're going to set all events to youth, and that will say that it's boys and girls versus men and women. It does default to adult settings because of the college background to it. Come back to batch operations. Field events should all be metric, but should all be metric right now. I'm going to make sure that they're set to English. Takes less time to go ahead and just do the default and do that. And we're going to set position order from worst to best. And then we're going to come back in and set the flight order from worst to best. Okay, and so you can see all these things, kind of slowly changed over the course of the those batch operations. Now we have a couple of issues that we need to come in and take care of on our own. I'm going to change the some of these longer events to a waterfall start, but then that's basically all I'll need to do. So this will just take a moment. And eventually, when you have things set up the way that you would really like to have them set up, you can go ahead and use an old Meet as a template. So at the beginning of the season, I always create a new template for my high school events because they're going to run exactly the same over the course of the year. So we have everything set up the way that I would actually like it to be for a given series of events here for this meet. And we can look at the teams, we can look at the athletes, we can go in, we can change things around. I'm going to go ahead and redo the competitor numbers just so that we get them into a little bit more of an alphabetical order. That way, if you pull up a team file, you can see that they are in order. You can come over here to relays and you can see everything's going on. We can scratch or we can mark them as exhibition. But we're going to come over here into the seeding aspect of it, and we're just going to select the field events, and we're going to configure our prompts. So I'm going to say that we're going to prompt for breakpoints for all field events here, and I'm going to say that we do want to show a preview after seeding, but I'm not going to prompt for seeding options as far as like the randomization or advancement, team lanes, and I'm not going to prompt for reseeding because I'm not going to do that. But we're just going to do one right here real quick and allow us to pick the breakpoints. So we have 14 entries in here. If they fit all in one group. If you don't actually select anything right now, it'll just say that everybody is in one single heat, and then it's previewing the event for you. We can say it's done it correctly. We have the lowest seed and then to the highest. But we're going to come back down here and we're going to seed an event with more people, and we're going to say yes, we do want breakpoints. And I'm going to put 10 people into the main section, and then I'm going to leave the rest blank, and so they're going to put them into the second flight, and there we go. I'm going to do one more with breakpoints to 17 because I'm going to want to split them up as well, and 10 and 7, and we're good. But now I'm going to come back in, and because everybody else is within range, 16 is a little bit high, but everybody else is within range of saying that we're just going to go straight through with one single flight for all of these events. So I'm going to select unseeded. That's a filter selection. So I can select all and it can reseed, but I'm just going to select the unseeded ones. And I turned off the preview, and so we're going to seed select, and it's just going to roll through really, really quickly and seed everybody up into one flight based on the rules that I had previously set. So now I can double click on it, and I can see that we have worst to best. So it's done it by the rule that we set out earlier. Let's come back in here, and again, all of these should be acceptable into one heat. So we're going to seed selected, select all the unseeded, and then seed selected, and we're good to go. And so you can see the difference in the waterfall is that we've got 1 through 6 here versus in the 4x4 we're going to see the middle lanes taken up, so it's standard lanes there. For these runs, again, I remember that we had the 3200 and the 1600 at relatively high numbers. We're gonna the 1600 for boys has 16 entries, and it was set to 12. But I'm gonna go ahead and just select all of them and seat selected, and we should see that the boys 1600 is going to give us 2 heats, and I'm going to come back in and change that and set that down to 1. But we're going to have to do that using the configure prompts. And see, the start list updated actually popped up very, very quickly. I'm going to save. And we did 2 in the boys 800. That's okay. We will fix the girls 8 as well, because 9 is pretty reasonable. So we'll select 9, and it's fine. And this changes the number of that's available, the number of positions available, which is pretty handy. So we are actually seated up right now. We're good to go. If we go to enter results, we have all the events in the correct order, and we're pretty much solid. So technically, we are ready to do whatever you would like to do right now. We can run a meet. A couple of things that will make life a little bit easier. We're going to go explore right now, really quickly. So we're going to actually edit sessions, and we're going to create 2 sessions. For a high school event, I normally create a field event session, and then a track events. And I'm just going to come down and really quickly go through the field events. I don't notice this being an issue that we don't have them in the correct order, but when you send the file over to finish links, it's very, very helpful to have the races in the correct order that they're actually going to run. And the way that you do this with most meet management programs is to set up a session. So where I am, we are going to run the 4x8 first, and then we're going to run the hurdles, and then the hundreds, and then the 1600, and then the actually we're not going to run that. Run the 4x1, and the 400, and the 8, and 300, and 200, and then we have the 2 mile as a break, and then the 4x4. So I will set this up, and I believe this is correct, but I will set this up at the beginning of the year, and I will just use another meet as a template. So whenever I come into a event that I need to seed, I will select, instead of come over here to new and create from template, or new meet, I will create from template, and I will just open up an old meet that I know to be good and set up the way that I wanted it to. As I said, 99% of the high school meets that I do are set up the exact same way with this order. So I don't need to do a whole lot. Even if an event is set up with prelims, I would set up a prelim section of the sessions, and then I would take the prelims events and move them over, but the finals are still going to be pretty much in this order. So I'm good to go for it. So now when we come over to enter results, you can see that we have them kind of in publication order is what we'd call this. And we can use the filters wisely. I personally don't use the seated all that much, nor do I use the run relay field idea. I leave it at all, and I typically don't do anything gender-wise. I come over and I'm switching between the 2 sessions and sessions only. So when I start the running events, I'm over here, and it's pulling in the events for these guys, very, very quickly. At a track meet, of course, we need to do a couple of things additional. So we need to create the score sheets for the field events. And I don't know why there's 2 columns here. 1 column is fine. Team name short. And I created it off screen here. So let's resize it, pull it down, bring it over. So it's created this logo, it's created my logo on the sheets. I'll show you in a moment where we can find that. It's in the list settings. And so now we have just a nice big PDF we save as, and you can send it to the coach. You can print it off. You can print it off as it is right now, but you'll need to do that for the horizontal and then the vertical events. Of course, the verticals being the high jump and the pole vault. If you don't like the logo, you can come over to report settings and you can select your very own logo. So we can go to MeetPro, or I have an entire folder with various logos in it. And we'll come back to this later on in one of the follow-up videos doing kind of best practices, but now we're pretty much good to go. And then of course we want to print off start lists. I keep it session ordered again, and I usually do 2 columns, especially for a high school event. We'll go from here. So this looks pretty good. And again, we went back to the MeetPro logo for this because it's selected, and we're good to go. Okay, on the other side of all this, let's say that we are actually running the meet, and we're going to enter some times, and we're just going to enter some times that are similar to what their seeds are. We would normally get this from finish links directly by using this again, get event results. When we come into FAT, we do usually need to set it up, although I have settings that are pretty much sticky. So one of the nice things about MeetPro is that a lot of the settings are going to be retained over the course of your meets. So I am using one computer as my main computer for meet management, the computer that I'm using right now, and then I usually have one main computer that I do my timing with, and so it's still set up. I have that directory on my Links computer set up as a drive on this computer, so it sees it as the V drive, and I can log in and it'll automatically do it. Now we usually will select track events, which is again one of the reasons I like to do the sessions with the track events all by their own. Now you can select timed events only, so you can have a session where there's field events and whatever, but I prefer to leave it as is. Auto update start list, generally pretty good idea. It can get a little bit rough if you're going to end up doing a lot of reseeding. It might be in some cases better to not do the auto update start list, but for me it's been pretty reasonable to keep that on. Then we save, and we do have a couple of their options up here, but now when we press get event results, I mean, it's not going to do it now because we don't have it connected, but the entirety of an event would populate in the series. So if we have multiple heats like we would for the 100, if we were done with the hundreds and we hit get event results, all 3 heats should essentially come on over, and then we're going to mark it as complete. Now, once all the results have, or once all the teams or the competitors have results, it will automatically score. You can rescore it if you want to. It's not strictly necessary. Typically, it's going to be okay. We'll come over to list, and this is a page that you would normally print off to post and show people. We'll get to the online results in one of the follow-up videos, but now we're good to go. So this is done and set. Let's come over here and let's do a shot put event. For the shot, we can come in and we can do it exactly as it is right now. We just enter it literally as it is. It did convert over the marks from English to metric, I believe. Not a big deal. Now for the long jump and the triple jump, though, you notice we don't have a column for wind over here. In order to enter wind in the event, we would need to come in and do a field series, and it's totally reasonable to just do 15.5, then come on over and do 1.3, and then we're good to go. Save it, close it, and then when we list it, we should see the wind reading right over here. Good to go. On the hundreds, on the track events, the wind reading you can enter manually over here if it's not coming in from finish links directly. For high jump, doing a field series is actually sometimes a little bit easier. You just start with the starting height, 4.2, 4.4, 4.6, And then you can come on down here and we say XXX and 0 and XXX, and you can go from there. You can also put in pass. It'll accept 1p. You can accept 3. It's a debate that I had just had this weekend over whether it's 3 Ps or 1. I believe 1p is certainly reasonable. You're not required to take any attempts at any height. So we can save it and then close it, and we've got things. We haven't scored it because not everybody has a result, but otherwise we're good to go. And just go through the meet like this and you should be fine. As best practice, I do prefer to mark things complete when I'm complete, and it'll no mark anybody that's not got a result line. But now we're good, and we can come in and we can produce results. Say OK, and then we're good to go. So I hope that helps. In the second video, we'll show you some of the more advanced features of the program, talk to you about some of the tips and tricks, some of the things that I've learned over the many years that I've worked with the program. So there's a link in the description to that video. We'll see you soon. Thank you.